everyone, what is up? Welcome to the channel and welcome to another car review. And today we're in a blast from the past, 1988 Honda CRX SI. Now for me personally, the CRX is kind of dear to my heart because in the Netherlands, when I was part of the car scene there in the early 2000s, a lot of people were running these things and had a few reasons, of course. They make decent power, about 120, 130 horsepower in Europe. Here it's 105 and about 100 pound-feet. But this one is not stock. Collect myself here. This is also exactly the reason why they call this a casket on wheels. So the reason why this was the car of choice for kids in the Netherlands was, one, it was light, two, it had decent amount of power, and three, the taxes were lower because in the Netherlands they actually tax based on weight, not on engine size or anything else. The only problem with that was that because the young kids were driving this thing, insurance premiums were sky high. I mean, it was freaking crazy. So yeah, you probably get why I'm a little bit sentimental towards these cars. Nothing you can say is gonna change that fact. And the way this car looks, it just brings me back and I love it. Yeah, it's an older restoration. It was done back in 2001, but it wouldn't take much to get this car back to its previous status. So the interesting thing about this car is that it is a one-owner car. So the owner that is sitting right next to me, Eric, he owned this since 1988, and it's went through 4 engines in that time. The original one lasted for a good bit till he replaced it with the European version, which made 120, 130-ish horsepower. Put a turbo on that, it blew. Then he went to a B18 turboed, it blew. Now there's a B20b under the hood with a turbo. Stock, they would be about as good as the European version of the car, about 130 horsepower. This one though, at this point, is making 250 wheel horsepower and 260 wheel torque. Oh, the engine is also stock bottom end. The only thing it has is a set of head bolts, so it's making all that power on a stock bottom end engine and it's staying together, so that's pretty awesome. This is corner here. And that is exactly why you have to be super careful driving these high horsepower CRXs. It just moves from one way to the other. As you might imagine, this thing also does not have a limited slip diff, which means that all that horsepower is either going to one wheel or the other. There's no rhyme or reason. Guys, yeah, I said it before, but say it again. Gasket on wheels, 100%. If you do not respect this car, it is going to bite you in the ass. A little bit more brake action there. Yeah, it's a little spongy, but it still stops pretty good. Has a disc brake conversion on the back. Stock, they came with drums. So we already established that there's no grip in first. Also, no real grip in second. Third is the money gear. I'm gonna say, well, as scary as this thing is, it does make your heart race, and in a very, very good way. Goodness, I know now why CRXs are as cool as they are when they're modified like this. To put things in perspective, my Mustang makes around the same wheel horsepower and wheel torque as this car. That car weighs 3,700 pounds. This one weighs a hair over 2,000. So you have the same power, but way less weight, like 1,500 pounds less weight. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is just nuts. Now turning in this, it's heavy unassisted, but it goes pretty good. And that's what second gear does. God, this thing is just so quick. Man, I love it. I love it. I don't care what you have to say about it. I freaking love this thing. Now, let's go back to the exterior styling. The Fast and Furious is alive in this car. The original movie is alive in this car. And I know that a lot of car enthusiasts, they hate the movie, but they also love it. And that's what this CRX embodies exactly. The body kit is actually an original Wings West kit, and that just brings it back to Fast and Furious yet again. Now, another thing on the exterior styling is the SIR badge on the back. Yes, I am completely aware that the SIR was never in the United States unless you imported one. So, yeah, minus points for that? No, actually not, because it again embodies the whole tuner aspect of the car and the whole ricer aspect of the car. But the cool thing about this car is that it has that ricer aspect, but it can also take names, and that is the cool thing. That makes this car kind of a sleeper. If I have to compare this car to any other cars that I've reviewed, it is going to be that WRX that I reviewed a few months back. Same feeling, same look, same thing going on, because, well, this. And it pulls like a freaking freight train. This thing will drive circles around my Mustang from a roll, no doubt about it. I'll get them from a dig though, because there's no way. And when you talk about the interior on the car, it is typical 80s, all hard lines for days. And the same goes for the exterior, really. Now on the interior side, we got a couple of Recaro seats. They're not Recaro, so they're Recaro seats, I guess. But they sit very, very comfortably, very, very nice. They have plenty of side support as well. The other thing that this car also has is a big ass stereo system, which is of course indicative of the era. When you look at the gauge cluster, I mean, it's old school. 120 miles an hour on the speedo. This thing will best that hands down. Also, of course, in the center of the dash, you got your boost, air, fuel, and well, volts, because you need to know how much electricity power you need to make nowadays too with all the electric cars, so you can actually say, how much power does your car make? 14 volts. Well, it looks like 14.2. And that sound of that turbo. See, if you modulate third gear, it actually feels a whole lot better, and the same goes for second gear. It still gets kind of squirrely at third. And on the brakes over here. So the tune on this car was by Redline Performance, and I think they did a pretty good job on it. Extra go-go in second gear, this car ain't having it. No, the way to get this thing set up and set up properly is probably a limited slip first, second, some really nice sticky tires, and then you can just go full send on it. So this B20b revs about 2,600 RPM at 60, which isn't bad either. And it's also not too loud. Okay, you have a bunch of rattles, but that's fine, that's cool. It's a 30-year-old car. So this one should actually do pretty good on a mileage perspective as well. And the original one, the high F one, the high fuel efficiency one, got 50 miles to the gallon. In part, of course, because it's so freaking light. It's the lightest one out there. The SI is actually the heaviest of the CRXs. But you don't need all the hybrid tech. What you need is a small engine, and lightweight to get to that point. Of course, back in 1980, they didn't have any of the airbags. There's no airbags here. Crash protection, don't talk about that in this car because there is not. Another thing to note about this car, that in 1988, this was Motor Trend's car of the year, or import of the year. And I see that, I really do, because of the miles per gallon you get in it and because of the handling characteristics. Okay, this one's not stock in that regard. It is on coilovers. It's a little bit bouncy also, but still, when I went through the corner, it was nice. It felt very, very secure. And that probably has to do with the double wishbone suspension that this thing came with from factory. He was looking at it and go like, oh, what is that? It's a typical racer. Give it a little taste what a typical racer can do if it's actually set up with 250 wheel horsepower in a 2,000 pound car. Jeez. So conclusion on this car, mixed bag. Part of me says yes because of what it stands for, but another part of me goes, I don't think I could have a CRX like this. If I had a CRX, I'd probably put like a newer K20A in it or something like that. Have just over 200 horsepower and call it good. It'll still be squirrely, but not as death-defying as this car is. And of course, over here, we got to do this thing. Go down to first gear. No grip. Wow, man, that is freaking amazing. Eric, thank you so much for letting me drive your CRX. Blast from the past and an experience that I would recommend everyone. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I'll see you guys on the flip side. It already feels sketchy, you know that? No power steering. Oh my god, this is interesting. Doesn't like first gear. You know, you don't have any grip in 1 and 2 at all.
3's a little squirrely too, it can be.
Yeah. You feel everything.
Yeah, it's a younger man's car.
That's for sure.
People keep asking, what are you doing driving your son's car?
I think it's the coolest thing in the world, man. Never judge a book by its cover.
It was for a B series. It wasn't for a D series. Because I was just going to get a new turbo.
Wow.
I was going to get the same engine. What was that?
It was a Hawk, and he had Prey. I wonder if that front camera got it. I was like, what the heck is that? Yeah, he's gonna be numbing on that in that tree over there. The things you see. Never ever seen something like that before in my life. Things you see on a car review. You get to drive a car that you've never driven, and then you see nature at work in an urban setting.
I mean, I'd like to, you know, put the forged pistons and rods and maybe sleeved it and just, but at that point, much more than what it has now is just unusable.
Oh, it's already unusable.
So I'm all right with it. Now, if I had, you know, $5,000 burn a hole in my pocket, say, here, go fix your car.
Yeah.
Go make it the way you really want it.
Yeah.
Like, okay, all right, cool. Make it bulletproof. It's like, you can do whatever you want. It will not break. I'm like, kick ass.
I'll promise you $5,000 if I ever make it big on YouTube. I'll be knocking on your door and say, here's $5,000.
Let's do this again.
Yeah, exactly. Man, it's freaking amazing though. How long do you want me to keep it running? And turn it off?
I don't keep it running long.
Yeah, I just, you know, turbo car, don't want to turn it off right away after hauling ass.
Yeah.
So. I don't don't like to do it when there's a ton of traffic. Let's do that again. Because you have to merge over here. Oh, that's gonna sound great.